Oh, there we go. All right. Very good. Had to wrestle with the internet and my computer a little bit. Things didn't go quite the way we wanted. That's okay. Let's get ourselves started. Let's get our weapons by our side. It's very good to see all of you again. So far, it looks like I've got Vitor, Aaron, and Morris joining me. Very, very good stuff. Arte, ardore, onore. All right, let's start with a little bit of a warm up. I certainly need it. I've been just kind of laying back and being kind of lazy the last few days. I'm going to start out with nothing that's going to make my downstairs neighbors very salty. I'm going to try and avoid that. I'm going to spend a bit of time on some mobility work. Start from right back here so that everyone's got a good view. Close the door so that there's no chance of any of you seeing how messy my room is right now. I'm going to start feet nice and wide, arms and legs nice and straight. Reach forward, set it down. I'm going to spend a bit of time just in this bear position. It's getting used to loading my shoulders, getting a little bit of weight on each of them, walking with my limbs out, just keeping everything nice and straight. Little shifts, from one hip to another. Boy, do the hips feel tight today. Oh, that doesn't feel good. Drop down into a nice squat. Shuffle in one direction. All the way back around. Whoop. Work on extension of my leg. Bring that back in. Extension of my leg. Bring it back in. Reach nice and behind me. Drop my hips to the ground. Stay there for just a moment. Take it back into child's pose. Here's something fun to try out. I'm going to reach out behind me. Come forward. Reach out behind me on the other side. Going from one side of the bridge to the other. From one side of the bridge to the other. Shuffle from one knee over to another. Just the lightest touches of my knees on the ground. And straighten out onto that back leg. Straighten out one leg in the front. Oops. Shuffle over to the other side. Hands on the ground. Reach both of my feet out in front of me. Just kind of letting my body move the way it wants to. Feels a lot better, actually. Nice. Very, very good. So what we're going to spend a little bit of time on today, we're going to be talking a little bit more about the Sidesword guards and how they relate to this idea of the gioco stretto, or the narrow play. Just give me a second to catch my breath. Good. That. Zap that up nice and tight. Yes. And one of the ways that I've always thought of the guards is I can think of them as one of the ways that I find I need to understand the guards is as static positions that are that have a canonical meaning and look to them. There's 17 in our system that you need to memorize. Sounds like a lot. Don't panic. I'm going to take you through it, and we're gonna puzzle through it a bit. I did a little sketch of 10 of these guards that you can find in the chat below. Just put them up on my screen. I was supposed to have my my OBS working for this, but it wasn't. So I'll invite you all to just take a look, see it. Can everyone see the picture? It's queued up in the chat. $404. What? Man. Lame. What? Create the link. Let's try this. Does that do what we want? Yes, it does. Sweet. So the first one that we're going to take a look at is these 10 low guards. They're so named because nominally most of them will happen with our sword hand below our shoulder height at about our chest height or a little bit lower. If we take a look at our little image, we can see that there's our little man that's got 9 dots in front of him and our one side view guard. Let's go over the side view first because it's actually, you know what? No, we're not going to do that. Let's go over the grid. The grid. We have 3 levels that we can kind of place either our hands or our sword's tip at. Everything that's down low, all these dots that are down low by the feet, those are large guards. Everything where our sword is kind of in the middle, stretto, or narrow guards. Everything where our hand is high and we have reached forward, you might imagine that you've ended a cut to the head or the face. These are our alta guards. Larga, stretta, alta. Yeah? Good. We then start to imagine these things based on how they interact with our dominant side leg. Anything that is happening to the outside of this leg is a codalonga guard. Codalonga, 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 all to the outside of my dominant knee. Anything that's happening right over top of my dominant knee is a porta di ferro guard. Anything that's happening to the inside of my dominant leg is a dente al cingara guard. We can therefore combine this grid to find any 9 guards. Anything that is this guard, which is low and to the outside of my knee, is codalonga y larga, the long and wide tail. This guard, which is right over my knee, is the porta di ferro larga, the wide iron gate. Anything that's and to the inside of that knee is the dente al cingaro larga, wide boar's tooth. If our tip is up and our hand is at about that same height, we are now still to the inside of the knee. We are at the dente al cingara stretta, the porta di ferro stretta, the codalonga stretta. Yes? Good. And then if we just extend that hand out in front of us, like we have just finished a cut to our partner's head, we have found the codalonga y larga, or the codalonga y alta, the alta guards, the high guards, the codalonga y alta, the porta di ferro alta, and the dente al cingara alta. Yeah? Now, this one last extra guard is a codalonga guard that's behind us. This is the codalonga y larga y distesa, the long and extended wide tail. Let's go back to chat and see if everyone's been following along. Depends on the author that you're looking at. Within the system, we hit Fool of Swords. Within the system that we teach in Duello, we think of it more by hand position and blade position. Though Marazzo and Mancellino will both differentiate the guards by footedness. We're not terribly sticky about it in the studio. Okay, so is that all making a degree of sense? We've got these 10 guards basically on a grid. Guardia di Stella. Okay, I have never encountered one of those that guard in my reading. We are going to we're going to get to some other guards in just a moment. If you take a look at Testa. Testa is one of our high guards, and we're actually just about to take a look at those. Let me see. Make sure I've got this other. Nope. Curses. Hey now. No. There we are. No. Butts. Share. New shared album. Copy. And let's. The Becca guards. No, we'll get an independent guard. I've never heard of it. Let's take a look at the high guards. All of our remaining guards are in this second picture. Just in like a really easy to digest. If it loads properly. And what I think is a fairly easy to digest little diagram. The first four of the high guards, I just show them from the side. The first one is, and I'm going to take this one from my knees so I don't stab my ceiling. I almost still reach it. The Guardia Alta. The Guardia Alta can be expressed with our blade held back, blade held up, Generally not with our blade held like this, because that's putting the wrist into an awkward position. It's not giving us lots of strength or poise in that position. At least I don't like it. It's nice and above us. We have the Guardia di Alicorno right out here. Marazzo specifically calls this either becca Chiesa or becca Posa, depending on which foot is forward. I haven't actually read the part of the book where he describes and differentiates the two of them. The way that I learned to separate them was from from free scholar Andre Koster. He explained it to me as my lead foot is either reposed in the becca Posa, it is behind me, or it is Chiesa-ing them down in becca Chiesa. That's always how it's made perfect sense to me. Generally, though, we just call it the Guardia di Alicorno, the unicorn guard. If you study rapier, this is also the prima position in our sword hand. The next one that we have is the Guardia di Faccia, literally face guard. Sword should be at about the height of your faccia. Our hand is in this palm up position, like we see in the quarta with the rapier. Okay, we have the Guardia di Entrare, which can be formulated, which is described by varying authors as being either with our hand in a neutral position or our wrist down. Marazzo shows Guardia di Entrare palm with the hand neutral in this terza-like posture. Could also be with the palm. I think Manciolino describes it with the palm down in this seconda-like grip. Either of them work. Just making sure we get that nice full reach to entrare our opponent. Our fifth high guard is the Guardia di Testa. Can look kind of like Cordolonga e Alta. So it's held up a little higher, and rather than this offensive orientation where I've got my blade in, I'm turning my true edge up just a little bit so that I'm able to absorb force on the high line. The last two guards that we see are and those are our 5 high guards. 10 low guards, 5 high guards. There's 2 more guards, but that are only ever described or referenced relative to a secondary of some sort, like a dagger, a sheath, a buckler, a rotella. Trust the buckler close to hand. We have the Guardia di Sopra il Braccio, where our sword is over that secondary arm, and the Guardia di Sotto il Braccio, where we are under the arm. It's pretty easy. So that's 10 guards that are basically on a grid. 5 that you have to memorize by rote, but they're all pretty they're all like pretty easy to remember if you can conflate their name and their function. And 2 guards that only exist when we have something in our other hand. Otherwise, we're generally keeping our sword out ahead of us. Let's go back and jump back to the chat. Make sure that we're all following. Make sure that it's all making sense. It's okay. Yeah. Okay. I don't really perceive faccia as being roof-like myself. It's always seemed to have this deep extension in it, where Testa is very much above me, but I'm not going to be terribly sticky about that. There's 17 guards done in about 10 minutes. That's a super brisk movement through all of them. Does this make sense to everyone? Gonna wait a second for the chat to respond. Now I'm looking back at the chat. I don't got to look over at other screens now. Cool. Very good. Yes. Gosh, I'm good at this. All right. Very nice, everyone. So now that we've gone through, so now we know all of our guards. We can think of we're still thinking about the gioco stretto. This idea of moving through of concluding with our point online. It's not to say that the actions are strictly thrusting actions, but that such actions as we take should conclude in a guard that has our point online. If we are looking to deliver say a squalembrato, we want to make sure that we are concluding with our point ahead of us, making little half cuts that keep our weapon ahead of us. If we're making rising cuts, we're probably ending in something like, in kind of this guardia di faccia, or what Ilka Hartikainen has sometimes said is another version of the guardia d'entrare. So you might think about moving from guard to guard within these actions. You might think about or you might make a pair of actions that conclude in this strata guard. You might think about thrust cut that leave us in strata. You might think about trying that from a wide guard. Thrust cut. Maybe in Chingara. Thrust cut. Thrust. Trying to make sure that I don't clip my ceiling while I do this. Let's spend a little bit of time on these actions. We'll lead with it. We might even take a very broad action that ends back in the stretto. Nice work. One last way we can think about this is, such as we know solo forms, we can try to contextualize them around different ideas when that suits us. By which I mean specifically, and I'm going to do this with my dagger, just because I want a little bit more room to move around and not worry so much about my house. We have our 12 guard progression from Marazzo, where we're starting with the weapon at our side, and we are moving to Codolonghe stretta, Chingara stretta, Guardia alta, Codolonghe alta, Portaferro stretta, Coda lunghi larga distesa, guardia di testa, guardia d'entrare, coda lunghi larga, guardia della cornu, guardia di faccia, guardia della cornu again. As we teach it and as we assess it for our scholars, we don't have any prescribed action that fits between any of those guard changes. We don't necessarily strictly say that the act of stepping into coda lunga stretta has to be like a reverso squalembrato. You can make that a lunge into coda lunga stretto. You can make it a lunge into shingara stretta. We're stepping it. There's really not a whole. You might think of this as that montante-like thrust into guardia alta, bringing the weapon in line into coda lunga alta for yet another of these thrusts. You can adapt your forms such as you have them to suit the needs of your practice, especially if it's one that's very specifically guard centric and doesn't have a prescribed set of motions between them. Does all of that continue to make sense? Wait a moment to check out the chat. Cool. Good. All right. Awesome. Praise be to the gods of darkness. All right. Very, 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 very good. So now we can start to think. So one last way that we can think about this is we can also start to conceive of, if we're just trying to do a thought exercise, maybe we don't even got enough room to swing the dagger or a stick around without worrying about the things that are around us. We may even start to formulate these guards and ask ourselves what options are available to us as we are moving into them and moving out of them. What options are available to us in any given guard as we move into and out of it? It may well be that if I am thinking of why would I put myself in the coda lunga stretta? Perhaps I'm doing a parry. Perhaps I'm getting getting this falso dritto to clear somebody away. I may find myself making this action as kind of this outside line, finding on my outside line. I may be thinking of this as an invitation that's provoking somebody to take this line. I may be approaching I may be looking to cover in one line, invite, and see what my partner wants to do so that I can start to work around that. What kind of attacks can I deliver from these guards, especially within this idea of the gioco stretto? Do I have access to a thrust? Do I have access to a very tidy little half cut from this guard? Do I have it, and what are my most direct actions? While I am in the coda lunga stretta, I certainly have a thrust available to me. Let's get. Oh, that's the angle that gives the shiny. Yeah. I have that nice staccato. I can get maybe even a punta dritta if I so wish. I have a dritto squalembrato. Thanks, Ethan. I have a dritto squalembrato that's available to me from there, and I can start to think likewise about Porta di Ferro stretta. Yes, I have that reverso. I have a dritto. I kind of have a fendente if I'm really making it small. There's not a lot of power in it. There's not a whole lot of oomph or English in it, as it were. Spin. I recently realized that in my teaching, when I say put some English on it, I'm really saying add more violence. And I'm waiting to see if any English fencers get bent out of shape about that. So far, none of them have, but none of them have been paying attention to my live streams. Give it time. And we do likewise with that. And we work through all of our other guards. And as you do that, you can then start to ask yourself, now as I'm delivering my cuts, as I'm delivering my thrusts, what guard am I concluding in, and what new actions are available to me from there? From Codalonghe Stretta, I have that nice, easy staccato available, and that has left me, at least right now, in the Guardia d'Entrare, where I've got this full extension of my body and my weapon ahead of me, which means that if I haven't hit, I'm probably looking for a Stramat zone out of it. I might be looking for a yielding action. I might be looking for a disengage back into my starting guard. I can start to think about what are these options available. Again, what are these options that are available to me as I move through and between any given set of guards. Specifically around these, and because we are studying the gioco stretto this month, we can all think about it very specifically in terms of these half cuts, point in line actions, and things of that nature. I think that takes me mostly through my lesson content. Did any of you have any questions before I decided to scuffle out? Go wait a couple minutes and chat. Oh. Some good solo drills outside of just the Meyer square. Oh, disengages. Certainly you could. Okay, let's go through this piece by piece. Oh, this is great. Fool of Swords, solo drills outside of just the Meyer square. Disengages around a doorknob are a classic. That's it. Those are some very, very good ones. Okay, you might think about, if you know any solo forms and transitions, you can think about your solo exercises, your patterns, as being very fast and athletic, or being very, very slow and almost meditative. For example, if you know the 12 post-it progression that we do in Longsword, or this 12 guard progression that I've just done here, try to make it last 12 minutes. Make a 60-second transition from guard to guard. I promise you it'll give you a good workout. And we got a few folks in chat that are jumping in. Let's see. Let's see. Morris Alcoro is that? Do you mean Alicorno? As in this? Do you mean this card? I'm gonna wait here until you respond. Let me just take a look. See, it's if you have a copy of Marazzo, you can find it starting in chapter 125. Okay, if you have Jarek Swanger's translation, you can find it in. Or no, chapter 138 rather is where this material starts. If you have Jarek Swanger's translation, you can find the 12 guards in order starting on page 165. I don't know where they'd be in other books. So Alicorno, just rapier, but it's just the rapier prima, but kind of squared off. Rather than this position, it's this one. Or in longsword, it's finestra. It's finestra on the right, but just held way out in front of you. All right, let's see. Certainly, you can hide your blade length with this. I don't know that Marazzo has any very specific instruction on using it to do so, but you certainly can do it. Okay, you can do likewise. You can do likewise with the point held behind you. There's even at least one guard that we see out of sword and buckler traditions like 133, which is specifically about hiding your sword behind your shield to allow for a nice easy strike. Let's see. Cool. I like the Swanger translation. I'm having just a great time with it. I think that about does it. I think if you have any other questions, I'm going to hang out in the Discord. I'm going to be taking some voice questions there. And if any of you would like to follow me there, you are welcome to. Thank you all once again for coming through, for being good students and supporting the art in these trying times. It's good stuff. Let's put our weapons by our side. I think it's about time for us to salute out. And we say, arte, ardore, onore. Thank you all so much. I'll see you all on Discord.